Hello and welcome to the Next 100 Days podcast. My name is Graham Arrowsmith.
And my name's Kevin Appleby. So, Graham, we talk an awful lot about writing books on this podcast. So today, we've got a book writing coach.
We do, and it's probably going to help those listeners out there who are thinking, yeah, I'd like to get that book out of me, but I'm stuck. Well, this young lady is, she's going to show you how you can get yourself unstuck and become a successful, or at least a published author. Today, we welcome Eleanor Baggaley. Welcome, Eleanor, to the Next 100 Days podcast.
Thank you. It's been a while since I've been called a young lady.
It's all relative, but
everybody's young compared to Graham and I.
Yeah, well, I mean, you we would ask you your age, but it's not that kind of show. But we can make a guess. You obviously you told us earlier that you were in the educational sort of field before you branched out. Give us just fill in the backstory a little bit. You obviously, were you a graduate?
So I was a head of maths and computer science. So kind of went through maths degree, went into straight into teaching. Loved the teaching side, but really enjoyed it. Loved making a difference. I always loved maths as a child. I wanted to inspire that love in other people. I wanted to kind of help people to find out what they wanted to do with their life. That's why I went into teaching. Obviously kind of went through like leadership to lead in the maths and computing. And while I was doing that, I got into personal development myself. I got quite into kind of, well, what it was that I was wanting from life, because I'd kind of gone through this journey of just, I suppose, following what was in front of me at each step without really thinking kind of bigger picture. So when I started getting into personal development, it opened my eyes up even more to when kids say, well, why do I need this? And especially in math, there's a lot of things that people think, well, what's the point in doing Pythagoras? What's the point in doing quadratic equations? So it kind of, I got more tuned in to the kids asking why they were needing to do all sorts of different things. And it made me realize that a lot of the students that I was teaching didn't know what it was where they were going, what their path was in life. I think there's a lot of adults like that still as well. So I started to kind of work with the students on the stuff that I'd learned around kind of goal setting and looking at what they were wanting to achieve and who they were as a person, and why that was important and how that was going to direct them. And then that ultimately led to me writing my first book. So although I worked with secondary students and kind of teachers in secondary schools, it was actually a picture book for young children that I wrote initially, but with that kind of same theme. So that's how kind of the initial start to my career change.
So you really wanted to help people find what they are, how to deploy their skills in the relevant career. So you're kind of like a careers lady then. Is that what it was? Were you, you know, they kind of wanted me to go down a coal mine. I don't know about you, Kevin, but I mean, back in the day, coal mine or maybe banks. I'm thinking I'd take the coal mine over a bank any day. I
thought you were going to say the other way.
God, no. Oh, no. I mean, at least it was an honest profession going down the mine. But as it happens, there's probably not a mine within 40 miles of where I live. So basically, anyway, it wasn't the most successful careers advice that I'd ever received.
But yeah, so, I mean, this is very true, Graham. You end up at school, you probably don't really know what you want to do, and somebody then says, "Oh, make some subject choices." You make some subject choices, and you then end up doing a degree.
Yeah.
You do it. Yeah. And I did a degree in economics and accounting. So what did I do? I got a job as a trainee accountant. Trainee accountant becomes a qualified accountant, becomes a finance person in a business. And you get on this treadmill. And Ellen's absolutely right. It's what you just follow what's immediately in front of you. Probably based on some decisions you made back when you were 14 or 15 in terms of some subject choices at school. And no wonder people get to the point that we frequently talk about, Graham, that when they get out of corporate, do something else that's a whole load more rewarding.
Well, which is kind of what you did, Eleanor.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I wrote kind of the first book. Didn't actually do anything with them for the first couple of years. They just sat in a drawer on a scrap of paper, and I wasn't sure what I was wanting to do. I didn't know where to start with them. So then I had one of my year 10 students was diagnosed with a brain tumour. And I'd been working with her on her kind of goal setting mindset, all of that stuff. And sadly, she passed away within a month of her diagnosis. And that was a bit of a turning point for me, because I was like, there has to be more to life than this. Going in, doing the same thing every single day. Where am I going in my life? I'm not spending any time with my kids. I need a bit of a change in direction. So at that, and I made the decision there and then that was going to be kind of my last year of teaching. Didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew it was going to be my last year of teaching. And it was getting towards the end of that year, and I was actually asked if I would do some maths education consultancy work, and it meant that I could kind of half step out of the teaching life and explore other opportunities. So I started doing the maths education consultancy, and also started to kind of branch out and develop my books a little bit more. So over the next few years, I then wrote more books, and my books are named after my children. When I had my third, so the first two were about achieving your goals, reaching for your dreams, helping them come true. The third book was for my youngest daughter when she was born in 2018, and we had postnatal diagnosis of Down syndrome. So her book was all about encouraging kindness and inclusion. Moving forward then, I kind of muddled my way through the publishing process. I didn't know what I was doing, made it up as I went along, made lots of mistakes, made lots of right things, and kind of fast forwarding a little bit, decided to do a formal coaching qualification, right, to kind of bring everything together. And that's kind of how I got to the point of being a book coach, because again, I wanted to help people so that they didn't go through the struggle that I went through with my first few books.
What was it about getting formal coaching advice that you were missing before you got it?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I think it's because I come from an education background. Having a qualification seemed to matter to me, which I think in the grand scheme of things, going through it, it was useful, because it did, going through the content within that qualification kind of helped me stop and think about things that I was doing. So it served a purpose, whether or not I needed to have a piece of paper with my name on or not. I suppose it doesn't matter at the end of the day, but it was the process of it that I found kind of really beneficial.
If it helps you structure a conversation with somebody to help bring the best out of them, because ultimately you're doing that, aren't you? You've got people at the other end of the line, or who you meet, that basically are stuck. They've got this idea of a book in. I know Kevin has, because he's been talking about it for about 7 years. And if I was really honest, I've got a similar book in mind, but I want Kevin to write it, and I'll just put my name on it. So I think that would be the best outcome from my point of view. But we probably are similar to a lot of the people that you help, in the sense that we're kind of busy. We've got our own businesses, and basically and procrastination at the moment, it's probably one of my middle names. So basically, I think those are the sorts of things that get in the way sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. And that was kind of procrastination was my biggest issue. So when I was writing kind of the last proper book that I did. So I did kind of move from picture books to what I call a proper book, which I shouldn't call it a proper book. They're all proper books, but with lots of words and things in, rather than mainly pictures. So that took me a lot longer because it wasn't my priority at the time. And it's about trying to kind of build in those habits to work for you. So I'm a great believer in there not being a one size fits all approach to it. So that's where I do encourage kind of people who I work with to look at the strategies that are going to help them to fit the writing in. Another big thing that I do that actually helps in whatever area it is of your life to kind of build those habits and behaviors is looking at your identity. And we tend, when we're wanting to change our habits and say, right, I want to write a book, I need to kind of do 20 minutes every day, or I need to do a big 2-hour block each week. The reason it doesn't tend to stay is because we're just trying to change that surface habit and behavior. And we need to go right back to look at our beliefs and values. And we also need to look at our identity of who we are. And if you're, as you said, you're sitting there as, I'm a business owner running my business, this is my identity, and then all your beliefs and values and then your behaviors and habits all sit underneath that and are all a direct result of your identity as business owner. So I help people to kind of put a hat on, even if it's just some of their time, as I am an author. And we look at the beliefs and values, and some of them will be interchanged with that business owner hat and whatever other hats you might work. But by putting your author identity hat on and looking at your beliefs and values, it can then have that knock-on impact onto these are my behaviors and habits. And that ultimately helps you to reach that end of the line of getting your book published faster than if you go, oh, well, I'm not going to prioritize it because I'm in my business owner hat.
Yes, I think that's good advice and sort of soundly argued. I mean, Kevin, if you had to write a book, I mean, would you choose to do it on, your hobby or one of your hobbies, or would you sort of delve into the world of business, or what would it be?
The answer is probably yes.
That's not an answer, is it?
Everything. You want everything.
He makes a brilliant podcast guest, doesn't he?
I think there's something in here, Graham, that follows what Eleanor's saying. Now, if you're going to write a book, you have to be passionate about.
Totally, yeah.
Now, there are going to be times when it gets tough, and it's great. We probably say to most business owners, look, if you want real credibility, real authority in your space, write a book. Fine. I want authority. Just wanting authority is not enough. No? You will sit down one morning and think, I've got to write 2,000 words today. And you just hit a wall. You're not passionate. It won't happen. So you've got to do more than just have this head knowledge that says, I want to write a book because I want to be influential in this space. You've got to really want it. And that goes on to exactly what Eleanor's saying about putting the hat on as an author. And to answer your question directly, Graham, I've got a couple of ideas going on at the moment. I'm not going to say too much about what they are. They're both business related. And it depends what ends up on the piece of paper. Because what's going down at the moment that was intended for one book is probably big enough for two.
So, well, yeah.
And you never know. One of those, Graham, might be more suited to have the name Appleby and Arrowsmith on it.
Well, we have. I mean, for those people who've listened to us for a little while, we probably let that one out of the bag several times over. But the opportunity.
What have you done about it?
Well, nothing so far. I mean, Kevin and I have only met 3 times, so basically, it's even though we're only 90 miles apart. But I think sometimes I've caught him out the sort of side of my eye, when he's stalking me in Leeds or whatever. He's obviously there somewhere. But no. Seriously, we're just two friends who basically have businesses and separate interests, but we have this joint interest. But we have done, well, I don't know, 375 broadly hours of content with some remarkable people, excluding yourself, Eleanor. But
obviously,
you've still got to prove the point. But no, seriously, there's a huge amount of content interest that would help potentially in terms of the construction of a book or ideas or whatever. So I can see a joint.
I mean, in a way,
yeah,
you have got a head start having all that content there. Turning even that into a book, would be quite significant for people, for your readers when you do get your book. It is going to be useful content. You've got people listening to it. There's people who obviously want that information, and people take information in different formats.
Yeah, I completely. I mean, but this show's about you, and the thing about you helping people who are in that situation where they think they want why do they tell you they want a book? I mean, presumably there are different reasons, but what do you find that's in their mind?
So as Kevin said, there's kind of a lot come from that passion. So there's a lot of people. Interestingly, I seem to attract people who want to help others, in whatever shape or form that takes. And that can even be from picture books, from children's books. I wrote my picture books to help people. And similarly to what Kevin was saying, about one book that's possibly two, there's a guy that I've been kind of discussing with his books that he wasn't sure which direction he wanted to go in, but he wanted to help people. He helps people through what he's doing anyway. He wants to extend that through his book. And he was trying to work out kind of which route to go down. I think we're possibly there. It's been ongoing for quite a while. But other people, it's about even people who want to share their story, even in kind of a more of a memoir type of book. There are always elements of, but this can help someone. And I don't know whether that is just me, and because I'm like that I want to help people, that I seem to attract the people who are also wanting to help others. But it is a real passion to share their message, their story, their expertise, whatever it might be. They have a massive driver to help others.
If I understand it right, the majority of books really don't get that many sales, do they? I mean, ultimately, I don't know. I heard something the other day that they rarely pass 1,000 sales. So basically, if that's the case, it's the average book's not going to make money for you.
No, I mean, I think I'm sure I've heard the average sale is about 20.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was being generous.
Yeah, very much so. And that's kind of, obviously, there'll be some people who write a book and maybe they might even just do it for themselves, and it's just they've got a book that they've got their story out and they're happy with that.
Sure.
And then obviously the JKs who are I won't go into skewed distributions with my math hat on. So, but it is quite obviously skewed there. Now, I didn't mind when I first did mine whether I was going to help 1 or 100 or 1,000 people. For me, even if I helped one person with that was enough. Job done. With one of my books, I actually work with a national and a local charity, and I have got kind of I don't know how many books. I'm really rubbish at keeping track of how many I've done, but it's well over 1,000 in terms of that. And it does ultimately depend on a number of things: what it is that you're trying to share, your platform that you have already for getting that out there, and how focused and passionate you are about sharing sharing the work, really.
I mean, Kevin mentioned earlier the word authority, and we've had other people on the podcast in previous years who major on that. They say, from a business point of view, one of the main reasons is so that you can actually demonstrate your authority within a micro niche. So in other words, if my niche or niche, if you're in America, basically is one particular area of the world, and I have the book versus my competitor who does not, then it elevates my status when I'm having a conversation with them, whether or not, and presumably if I've given them the book before they meet me, whether or not they read it, it's still going to be, they might look at the back cover and they might, look at the contents and flip through, but they might not read it. It gives them the sort of view that, well, actually, this guy's written the book. Why wouldn't I want to choose him over the other guy who hasn't?
Yeah. Well, also, it's harder to lose a book than a business card.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. But in a business card itself isn't, well, I'm not even sure it's necessary anymore, but the book itself, I think, is possibly something it's really quite valuable and does actually scoop up all that experience, particularly if you're still committed to doing good within your business.
Yeah.
But if you're not, shall we say, in business, and I would imagine some of your aspiring writers are not, but they just have that book inside of them, the motivation is, what is the motivation?
What if they've not got a business and they're just wanting to write a book? It tends to come from that passion and that desire to help people. So even if they've not got the business, I know people who are writing books because they just want to help through their story, through their message, and they're doing it for the love of it more than anything else, and they're not bothered whether they make money from it or not.
No. So, but it's almost like something, another milestone that there is a bucket list thing, something that they can almost look back on when they're retired, or whenever, or maybe when they pass away. Maybe they're creating these legacy things that actually won't go away. I mean, is that part of it, do you think?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of people that want to be able to, or they might be writing things for their children or their grandchildren, and they want that legacy to go with them. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of reasons, but I think, as you said, or I think possibly Kevin said previously, that you need to have that desire to do it. You need to have that passion and desire, whatever the reason and motivation might be.
Well, Kevin's got the desire to write a couple of books there, so you're ahead of me by at least one, Kevin.
Yeah, and you take the theme of the next 100 days, Graham. There's about 5 different ways you could cut that. There's one.
Yeah.
How do you just plan the next 100 days? You get just talking, massive action plans, time management, stuff like that. Or we talk all the time about leaving corporate. So how do you spend the last 100 days in corporate?
Yeah.
You could also say, how do you spend the first 100 days after you've left corporate?
Yep. No, I agree with you.
That's a big one, because that is, a lot of people get lost with that, don't they? It's kind of a big change in their lives, and it's like, well what do I do now? Where do I go? Especially if you've been in somewhere for a long time, that change in mindset is phenomenal. And as you said, you've got a whole series of books there between you.
Yeah. And then I do module 9 of our Future CFO program, which is about, you've just got your first CFO role. How do you spend the first 100 days in your new CFO role?
Yeah, well, I mean, and
there's a common theme running through all of those. There's some common content running through all of those.
It is. I mean, you've gone through this, Eleanor, because you basically kind of you did the sort of really clever thing, which is to almost have a bridge into a sort of a separate coaching life. So basically, you've kind of gone from corporate education into your own business, but you had that sort of halfway house. Do you still have that? Is that something else you still do?
So I've gone through a few different iterations within those. So when, as I said, when my youngest was born and we had postnatal diagnosis of Down syndrome there, I actually learned Makaton to be able to help her with her communication. So part of it, when she was very small, I actually was doing baby signing classes as well. So I've gone through like a whole host of doing various different things as the situation took me. And I would love to go back and do elements of that, because again, that was a passion. It's all about helping people. So I do little bits within the maths education side every now and again. I do quite like having that kind of dip in, but I found it quite hard at times when I was first kind of bridging, and then I had the majority of my stuff was in the maths education and just doing a bit within the book coaching, and now it's gone the other way, and I do like having the majority of my time in the book coaching but still dipping my toes in with the maths education.
It sounds a bit like you're a circumstantial entrepreneur or a book writer or an author. So you get into a situation like with your daughter, and you're basically what happens, you create a business out of it. It's just it speaks well of you that you can see these opportunities, or maybe they're just naturally foisted on you.
I don't know. I don't know. I think I see opportunities. I do see opportunities, and sometimes that's an issue because I'm like, oh, I could do this and I could do that, and I want to do everything. So my 14-year-old daughter runs her own little business as well. She sews and makes things. And I suppose I have a bit of a creative outlet. I helping her with that business. She's busy fundraising for a project at the moment. So she's kind of quite focused on that. So yeah, it's hard in a way trying to kind of rein it in. And actually, I have kind of been really trying to rein it in and solely focus on the book coaching at the moment, because I have got other things that I'm wanting to do, but I want to try and keep my focus on this for now.
Yeah, it sounds entrepreneurial to me, Kevin.
Yeah, but I get that, and in some ways I'm the same. And I started putting together for this quarter a massive action plan. What do I want to get out of quarter two? And suddenly I found out 3 actual separate plans, all of which needing a huge amount of commitment. So, and one of the big challenges for me is learning to focus on the right set of objectives.
But what makes the right set of objectives, though?
That's a very good question. What does make the right set of objectives? And that's actually a very hard one to answer. If you're the sort of person that has lots of different interests, lots of different passions, and probably wants to do a bit of everything.
This is where accountability helps, though, that I rely on. So I have my own coach that she helps me stay on track and keeps me accountable. But also I have my book writing groups. So obviously they keep me accountable. I have to stay focused, and business accountability groups. So having those different places, I think, all help me say, actually, I need to see this one through before I start on my next project.
I noticed it's almost like you were living in Notting Hill or something like that, because you call it something called author's fika, and I'm thinking,
fika.
Fika, right? Oh, there you are. But basically, it's a posh way of saying a cup of coffee.
It is, yeah.
I mean, but actually, it's only 4 letters. So I've and obviously Fika, as in FIFA, Kevin. That But anyway, the point is Fika. Tell us a bit about a Fika.
So it's a Swedish word. So I came across it. I can't even think when it was. I want to say pre-COVID. And me and a friend originally were wanting to create this space for business owners to come together to chat, and just, again, for accountability. I know I need accountability. And that was where it came from. and we didn't really go anywhere with that. But I really liked the word and the idea of this, taking a break in your day, coming with a cup of coffee and a cake, although I don't drink coffee, but I do like cake, and sharing and discussing with other people to help you move forwards and get unstuck, or even if you're not stuck, just have those moments of inspiration through discussion. So that was where I'd kind of pinched the word from, kind of the Swedish culture of having a fika. And I just really liked the essence of it and what it could do for an individual.
No, honestly, I think it's a really nice word. It's just it's a word I'd never come across, but I kind of like the idea. Is it mainly women gossiping, or is it? Because women gossip, don't they? But and I was born in the 50s.
Gossip too.
No, we don't. But I do like the idea. I do like the idea that you keep each other accountable, but you're also giving each other mutual motivation. Is it? It's like a round. It's like an intervention, like one of those AA meetings that you see on TV or whatever.
Possibly it's a little bit. I don't know. So we meet on Zoom. It is online.
Oh, I see. Okay.
There's people from all over that come along to it, and not everybody comes every month. Sometimes we might just have 2 of us. Sometimes there might be 8 or 10 people.
I see.
And it's quite nice that it is just there as a drop in. So if people do need a bit of a kick up the backside, or if they've got stuck with something, it might be that they've got an idea that they're not sure whether to work with. It might be that they don't know the next step in the process to work through. It might be that they just need to drop in and see some friendly faces, even if they're having some time out from their book because they've got lots of personal stuff going on. So it is an opportunity. We don't gossip as such. I know you were only joking when you said, but it did make me reflect and go, "Oh, do we?"
What makes you think I was joking, though? But no,
okay, maybe you were.
No.
It's the biggest gossip on the planet. I mean,
well, that's not true. But no, I do get the fact. I actually quite like the fact that it was. Sorry, I didn't know whether you did it locally and you were actually in a cafe somewhere, but or actually, what you're doing this is. Because it's an author's fika, so it's basically your clients effectively who are getting together, and you're keeping them straight.
Yeah, well, I mean, this isn't even clients. This is a free thing that I do for anybody who even has an interest in book writing. Yeah. So there are a whole host of different people that come along to it. And there are some people who have actually taken quite a few months out of their book writing because they've got other things going on, whether it's personal or work or whatever else it might be. But they do still drop in every now and again to keep in touch with the book writing world. And they know that we're a safe space, that they can just come and listen to what other people are doing. And I always find that even if I go along to an event, and I don't think I've got a question that I want to ask myself, but I know that if I go along and I listen, there's probably nuggets that I can take away to implement in whatever areas it might be. And I'd like to think that that's what people are finding from the fika as well, so that even if they think, oh, well, I'm not stuck at the moment, I'm quite happily plodding along, but there might be things that go, oh, actually, I hadn't thought about that. Or even if it's just a place for them to share and go, you know what, I've made the next step, I'm here, this is where I'm at, and I'm really proud of myself. And we're equally really proud of them for doing it. So it's for celebration, asking questions, safe space, just
so you don't actually say well done, you just put one of those little emojis on your Zoom screen, then is that what you do, like a clapping thing?
Oh no, we totally speak.
No, that's good. No, wonderful. You have a one-to-one thing with people, don't you? So people can actually pay you real hard money and actually get you to help them. So that would be possibly a Zoom thing, because there might be anywhere in the world, presumably. And then basically, and is that what your experience is? Do people come from other, mainly English-speaking countries?
Yes, I'm trying to think whether I think they possibly all have been English-speaking countries. I want to
Yeah.
say that there's been someone not, but I don't know. I've got something in the back of my head that says there is possibly someone, but I can't think off the top of my head. But yeah, so I do tend to kind of work through Zoom. I have a program and publishing as well as that, which I'm trying to kind of get more people to go down that route rather than working with me one-to-one, because I've got a whole load of content that people can learn from, but then they still get the access to me for those kind of more specific, shall we say, rather than going through the whole host of everything.
Just give us a window into that content. So Kevin's thinking about doing that book of yours, Kevin, or one of them. What are give us a couple of headlines that basically within that content that might help him, for instance.
Well, the first thing, the fact that you said one of them, trying to decide which idea to do, that can be a big part of procrastination. As you've said, kind of, well, where do I start? Which route do I go down? The same as when you're talking about, well, I've got these business ideas and these different objectives, and what do I pick? So we do look at kind of, well, what is it that's driving you and helping you to decide which book that you might do initially. I have a whole thing on the author identity and how you can start helping to map out your habits and how you can ensure that you stick to them by looking at your author identity, and we do work around that. All the way through to copyright issues when it comes to fonts and illustrations and whatever else you might be working with there. Finally, through to getting your book published and the end result, which again, it's kind of, I have the teaching content in there if people want to do it themselves, but also I offer that as a service to help people with the kind of finishing off and the publishing of their book.
Just I mean, round numbers, don't hook yourself into a corner, but basically when it comes to, let's just say I've got the whole thing done, it's ready to be published, self-published. Broadly speaking, am I in for 200 quid or am I in for 2,000? I mean, what are we, I don't know, for a regular number of books.
So, I mean, it totally depends on the things it depends on. And it depends on how much time you've got and how much you want to do yourself, or whether you just go, I just want to hand this over to someone to do it. So it can actually range from anywhere from the 200 to the 2,000.
I see.
I suppose. And I think if you're wanting to hand your book over, then you're looking in and say, can someone sort out the editing, the typesetting, just making sure everything, the cover and everything, you are looking at a couple of thousand rather than a couple of hundred.
Got you. I understand. That's really helpful. I mean, Kevin's now thinking, okay, I can afford that. Aren't you, Kevin?
But that's actually a fairly critical part of the book. You talk about just doing the writing. Well, that's probably less than 50% of it.
Yeah.
You definitely need an editor, somebody who's going to look through your text, be critical, change it, whatever. And you want it to look nice. So that's all that stuff around typeface, illustrations, the cover, the colors you're going to use, everything like that. And there's a lot of time and effort goes into that sort of stuff. And okay, you probably know how to write a book, Graham, from the point of view you write a lot of stuff anyway. So you sit down to keyboard, you churn some stuff out, you vaguely sort out into chapters and section headings and so on. You've got some stuff. That's actually not the difficult bit. Now, you've got that written. If I asked you, how do you go get that published? You'd probably start scratching your head a bit.
That's where I started back in 2016, and why I stuck it in a drawer on a piece of paper for years before I figured it out.
Yeah, I know enough printers that I would. I don't think I'd struggle with that. But having said that, and design,
you've got a step between that. So you've got it written, and you've got the printers, but you've got that block in the middle of getting it from written on the computer or even by hand that some people do, and getting it to the printer. So it's that block in the middle.
Yeah, the sort of software that I've got on my computer writing, I'm staring at this computer now, and I think I've got the capability to do that. Having said that, I agree with you. There's probably a lot more. stuff to tick off. But if you think about computers and the way in which the world's changing, especially as we speak, for the last, where are we now, 4 or 5 months, AI has expanded rapidly, and that will make shall we say, publishing more complicated or not?
Well, so I spoke to someone, I'm trying to think where it was. It was at a book event I was at, and they were saying that there was a lot of upset in the music writing world around similar kind of thing. And they were like, oh, well, it's going to just be a nightmare. There's just going to be loads of rubbish music out there. Arguably, there is loads of rubbish music out there. But there was those concerns about what it was going to do to the music industry. And it hasn't had as big as a negative impact as people were expecting. I think AI is a positive. So I talk about using AI quite a bit from a writer's block point of view, that staring at a blank piece of paper is actually really difficult. And that's where your procrastination comes in. And if you can use AI as a writing prompt to get started, it's really beneficial, because even if you don't like what it's written, you can scrap it, but it's got your head going in the right direction. Yeah. I think in terms of, I don't know whether you're talking in terms of kind of how to learn about doing things.
No, I think if you're putting words onto a page and you're scooping them up from AI, then basically, I mean, I wonder whether or not you're running a risk of plagiarism or running a risk of somebody later down saying, you know, I wrote those words, and you got them through this channel here, but they're not your words, they're mine.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But ultimately, at the end of the day, would you want a book that someone else might have exactly the same book with their name on? No, you wouldn't. So it's got a place in terms of those prompts.
Yeah.
But I absolutely do not advocate writing an entire book and passing it off as your own work on there. No. And I think people would be foolish to do that. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure there will be one or two that do. But I don't think it's going to be problematic in that respect. There are copyright issues. If you have a book that you have done through AI, you do not hold the copyright for that book.
No, it's I think there's going to be all kinds of challenges, but you know, the safest thing is for you to write your own work, and then, you know, however you're going to get it published is another matter. But I think I think it'll come back and bite people, and actually in some ways, fair enough, don't mind. You know, if you've chosen the easy way, but I do take your point. If you've got a blank sheet in front of you, it's a really, really helpful thing to fill it up with something and then start thinking and start moving it around and start making it your own exposition. But for me, you know, what's going to happen is that if you were back at school, you'll be getting all kinds of papers on maths from somebody with proven, you know, way beyond their capabilities that, you know, because you've been teaching them for 5 years. And then all of a sudden they're like Einstein. Maybe there's been an intervention. So I'm not quite sure. And maybe the kids are thinking, well, actually, I don't really need to learn this because I've got AI.
But I think it's a case of helping them understand how to use it, not how to cheat with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So my daughter was doing a project. So she's in year 9 at the moment. The local university were doing a project with them, and she had to write a number of essays for this. And she was getting really frustrated with herself with one of them because she didn't know where to start. She was just finding it really difficult. So we did look at one of the AI tools, and I said to her, you're going to have to think very carefully about how you pose the question into what you get out of it. I said, and you are not taking that and you are not using that as your work.
Yeah.
So she had to think about how to reframe the question.
Yeah.
So she put that in and she got some information out. And instantly she was like, well, I don't want that bit because that's not relevant to what I'm wanting to include. And she was like, right, well, I'll use this, but I need to break it up and I need to put my sources of evidence in there. So she was using it in quite a productive way, that she was critically analysing and reflecting what was there and making it her own. And I think that's where we have AI. It's not going anywhere. It's only going to develop and become more. We need to be able to understand how to use it productively and effectively rather than cheating the system.
Wow. I don't know about you, Kevin, but Eleanor's really impressed me. I mean, right at the beginning, I was thinking, oh, it could go either way, this way, you know, but I mean, she really has impressed. And not surprisingly, I'm only kidding you, Eleanor. You've been an absolutely first class, you've been a first class guest here on the Next 100 Days podcast.
So, Graham, all of that coaching and writing a book, you going to write one?
I think not right now, but I do think there is an opportunity for us to pool our content and make it hopefully helpful to a few people in a different medium. People do consume content in different ways. The truth is, we've had an amazing array of wonderful guests over the last few years, and you know, just bringing some of those to life again. I mean, if you take books alone, Kevin, we must have had, I don't know, 10 people talk about you know, the different aspects of books, whether they're publishing or whatever, and you know, there's a fair concentration of knowledge there. You know, and all that would be is like bringing that together, and whether you'd have a chapter on that or not within the book, but you'd have almost like evidence from really talented people. It'd be quite an interesting chapter.
Yeah. And I'm thinking back as well, Graham, we've talked about people that have given advice on books, but how many people have we had on as guests who have written a book?
Oh, yeah.
Just the fact you've written that book then gives you a ticket to go to podcast hosts and say, I want to be on your show. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. No, yeah, absolutely it does. You lead with a book, and it's I the answer is I would love to be able to do that. Whether or not it'll be in my particular industry or not, I don't know. But I do think I would be far more interested in doing it linked to the work that we've done over the last 7 years. So I think that would be something that I think we would both benefit, because I think we're both equal partners in that. And I think, but it's then crafting something that's going to be of value to hopefully people around the world.
Watch this space. You never know.
Yeah. Well, it might not be a calling card for us, but it might be a bit of fun doing it.
Yeah. I think that's it. It's having fun. That's the most important thing.
And so we could run a fika as well, Kevin, just like Eleanor does. But you know, get people together and chat about things. I don't know what.
So, Leeds United.
Oh goodness, no! That was like a stab to the heart, Kevin. So on that really exciting note, I've been Graham Arrowsmith.
I've been Kevin Appleby. Goodbye.
Goodbye.